Hello, welcome to this morning's side event on future-proofing youth, skills for the future. I'm probably not who you were expecting to be here today. I'm a stand-in, but I'm Dr. Lucy Wallace. I'm Chief of Staff at EIT Food. What a stand-in. Thank you, Matt. I've got my fan club in the front here. Actually, I'm really honoured to be here today and to be asked to step in because this is a really, really important session with some fantastic panellists. And what we're going to do is everybody's going to introduce themselves, and then the panellists will run through a little bit about their experience, and then we'll open to questions, and we'll really sort of dive into the topic of skills and sort of skills for youth, but then maybe sort of skills beyond that as well. And I will be asking for questions from the audience. So if you're in the room, please feel free to ask questions. We also have a Slido, so if you're at home, you can add questions onto that, and I'll be keeping an eye on that, and we'll also be answering questions from there as well. So first of all, I'm going to start this end here.
Thank you very much, Lucy. My name is Rieke. I have a background in nutrition and food science, and I'm a graduate of the EIT Food Master in food systems. And this is what basically brings me here today to talk a little bit about my learnings and insights on the skills that were taught during this program.
Good morning from me too. I am Vasiliki. I'm a chemist. I come from Greece. And I graduated in the University of Greece, did my PhD there, then I worked in academia for more than 10 years. Yes, I'm a little bit older. After that, I switched to the laboratories of the Commission in DGJRC, where I was involved in the activities of the Knowledge Center for Food Fraud and Quality. I was very much involved into fraud prevention and detection. And lately I joined the Research Executive Agency, where we are funding MSCA in the framework of the MSCA, Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions. We fund excellent science.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Glenise Virginia Luciano. I come from the Young Professionals for Agricultural Development. I actually have a background in agriculture and anthropology. And before starting my role at YPARD, working in partnerships and policy, I actually was in academic research and agricultural research. So I'm very excited to have a conversation with you all, because I also come from the background of the technical sciences going into more development work.
Hi everybody, and very happy to be here as well. My name is Pavel Krasny. I work at the EBRD as a human capital development specialist, focusing on the agri-sector.
Okay, thank you. Just before we start, I think it's worth remembering that 2023 is the European Year of Skills. And so the aim of today's session is to explore what skills are required to ensure that young professionals in the food system are equipped to deal with the challenges they will face over the course of their careers. So the food sector itself is constantly evolving, and this means that professionals need to continuously upskill or reskill in order to remain relevant. So how do we keep up? How do we ensure that there's adequate planning, there's adequate workforce planning, so that we've got the skills we need in the marketplace, but also that we are maintaining satisfying careers as individuals? So this session today is going to draw on the experience of our very well qualified panellists to give a concrete idea of what these skills and the many different paths to obtaining them might look like. Skills receive quite a bit of attention from policymakers, but not necessarily as much from the private sector. And I'd be really interested to find out what our panellists think about that, as well as explore the link between skills and impact in food systems transformation. So the Future of Food is EIT Food's policy focus conference. So this session is also an opportunity to add some priority suggestions for policymakers, and we'll delve into that a bit later in the session today. Food systems transformation is not just about technology. Really importantly, it's about people. I was in a session yesterday at the WEF, and there were some investors in the session, and they were being asked about their sort of investment priorities and their investment strategies for food tech. And one of them very interestingly said, actually, we invest in people. And for us, the team of people we invest in is one of the most important things. It's not just about the technology. Yeah, the technology needs to work. We need to believe in the technology. We need to be mission aligned. But for us, we also need to believe in the people. So I think today is a very timely point at which to kind of discuss skills, with regards to food systems transformation. And I'd like to hand over to our first panellist. Could we also get the slide up on there, please? The one for the panel, yeah. So everyone can see who they are at home. Okay, thank you. So, Rika, over to you.
Yeah. So again, hello, and first, thank you very much for the invitation to speak here today and to give you some insights on this program that I participated in. It was launched a couple of years ago by EIT Food, and the aim was mainly to really boost a holistic understanding and a deep knowledge of how food systems work, and also to promote the entrepreneurial and leadership skills in students so that they can become the next generation of innovators. And I have to warn you a little bit, this will be a quite personal story. I'm here just on behalf of myself, not representing any entity, so please bear with that. And also to warn you that I didn't become an innovator yet. But instead, I learned some skills that I think will be of really great value on whatever career path I choose to go. So to give you an idea what this program is about and how it works and the type of skill sets it is designed to teach. So basically every student studies at 3 different universities. And each university focuses on a different area of the food system. So in my case, for example, I started in Germany, where I learned about primary production, precision agriculture, food processing, and then I went on to study 1 semester in the UK, in Reading, where it was more about consumer science and public health. And then in Spain, it was more about the personalized nutrition and functional food development. So besides getting insights into different areas of the food system, you also have already this cross-cultural, this international experience where you definitely learn cross-cultural skills, which I think are really important also. Yeah. And you also get an insight on what is happening at a European level. So you get out a little bit of your little small university bubble. And there's also strong involvement of the industry, which I really liked. So you have many non-academic activities, such as visits to food processing companies, or we had an entrepreneurial summer school where all students met for 1 week to kind of work out a business idea from scratch. And then there's also, yeah, of course, then there you're also guided and mentored by industry partners, and you already get this feeling of, okay, what is needed from an industry perspective, what skills and knowledge, and how are they put into context. And then there's also a strong focus on teamwork, on collaborative problem solving, and on leadership skills. So, for instance, the people you get to work with, they have a mix of backgrounds. So they come from nutrition, agriculture, food technology, bioengineering, etc. And when you start working with these people, you realize they sometimes speak a different technical language. So you need to adapt your language and adopt a common language. And I think that was also something really valuable that I learned, and also how to be a team player, having collaboration exercises. And so in the end, after graduating, I realized that, first of all, I broadened my perspective and also got out of my little scientific bubble, and I got to understand the food system at large, how it works, and how the different parts of the food systems are connected. So for instance, food systems work like systems, they are dynamic. So if you take one piece out of that system or you add one piece, it will create an imbalance or an outcome in another part of that system. And having this realization was kind of mind-opening for me. And I also realized that I didn't become an expert in any scientific field, which is what you are told these days you should become, and that this is kind of the way to go. But I learned something that is, for me, also of great value, and that is that I understand a bigger picture. I kind of see opportunities. I can recognize opportunities for innovation, and also I got the right tools to act on such opportunities. For instance, the collaborative skills, the leadership skills, the entrepreneurial skills, and you get the right mindset, and I think that's really important. And also the right network. You're already connected to the EIT Food Network and other networks. So I realized that, okay, I'm able now to communicate to different stakeholders of the food system. I have a language that is, I have a little bit of knowledge of everything. And that really puts me in a kind of position, as I like to call it, the dot connector. So really the one that is able to find relationships between stakeholders and also between maybe seemingly unrelated things to solve problems. In the end, I would say those skills that I was taught, they are less tangible. It's more about expanding your horizon, about acquiring this innovative mindset, but also a critical and kind of analytical mindset. And I believe that this will be really important in the future because, as we all know, the technologies are advancing really, really fast, and kind of the opportunities that young people have these days to choose from, it doesn't make their life easier. You all know that if we have a lot of choices, it's not easy to make one choice or decision. So I think we kind of would need to focus on teaching people to kind of embrace uncertainty and embrace change, and also this kind of have this cognitive agility that they can adapt to new circumstances very rapidly. And I think if we really work on this kind of skills, we are well equipped to kind of face any challenge that will come, and it's a good basis to work on in the food system, but also beyond that.
It is a pleasure for me to be here as well. I had already the chance to meet all these very interesting people, and I'm very grateful for that. Well, I will take you to a journey that I did. I will take you with me just to show you how I end up thinking what I'm thinking, and how I end up saying what I will say. So I started my career from my degree as a chemist, where I fell in love with chemical analysis. I want to see what is in the food. I want to see what is in everything that we eat, that we use, and that I found fascinating. So then I did my PhD in chemical analysis of complex matrices. We were trying to develop new methods of analysis for food, for plant extracts, for very complex matrices. And really, that was fantastic, because you don't see what is in the food. You need to put a spy on the food and tell him to spy and give you the feedback. And this is practically what we did. And then I relate very much with what Rike said. I wanted to find out more, and I couldn't do that in Greece because I did that. I did what I had to do there. I wanted to explore more, to go out of my comfort zone, to see what is going on. And I remember already now, still now, that I finished my PhD. And 2 days later, I left for the Netherlands, where I did my postdoc. It was fantastic. I didn't even have the time. It was summer, and I missed the Greek summer. Yes, I'm telling the truth. I missed the Greek summer that year to go north in the Netherlands with the rain, you know how it is, okay? Because I was very passionate to see what is next. And what was next was an amazing collaboration that I had there in the University of Wageningen, where we developed really a new method. And that new method for analytical method that was combining a lot of other methods gave me the opportunity to put myself into the scientific map in a quite good, let's say, grade. Now that I'm thinking about it, flashback, this happened because I took, let's say, the opportunity to participate to a mobility program that was connecting university with a company. And I learned a lot from there. Back then, I didn't realize the importance of this, but I do realize it now. Then I thought that I should go back to Greece and offer this knowledge that I gained to the university there. So I became a faculty member, and I was teaching it, and we developed it there. It was really huge. I loved it. It was fantastic. And then I wanted even to put it a step further, and JRC was the place. In the Joint Research Center, I used all this knowledge to set up methods, even authenticated methods that would practically solve could potentially solve or serve the detection of food fraud. That was really exciting too, and I really enjoyed it. Now, if I make the connection, so this led to me practically interacting with EU legislation. Then the next step was practically to jump to the other side, to the funding institutions, to the Research Executive Agency, where I work in the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, and more specifically to staff exchanges, where we fund the mobility of researchers in between different disciplines, between different sectors, and all over the world. So what a trip, huh? So if you think about it, if someone wants to thrive in the food sector, what should do is to know everything about the technology and science behind food, which is a lot, and then nutrition and health, which is a lot, and then at the same time they should know about consumers' behavior. I was involved in this dual quality project in JRC. Amazing, fantastic, very interesting. So we need to know about that too. And then at the same time, oh my God, we have crises. So we need to be a crisis manager. And then we need to know everything about sustainability. That is already too much. And on the top, we need to thrive in problem solving. We need to be adaptable. We need to be flexible. And really, when you were talking and you were saying about the connector, the dot connector that you feel, I think that this is very, very important. We really have to have more people like Rike. And we really need to be more connected together so that all this chain will practically give something very positive to the citizens, to the community, think about what is the biggest now project related to food, farm to fork. So how many people, how many different jobs that does this connect? So this is why I'm really very happy that I am part of the Marie Curie family, because what is happening there, and I hear it very often from the MSCA fellows, what is happening there is that they come, we always ask for their testimonials, their feedback after they're finishing their program. And what they say is, yeah, I learned a lot, and yes, this experiment was very interesting to me, and I really loved that I learned this technique, and it really opened my mind, and it was the first time that I went out of the university bubble, and I worked in the industry, and I learned a lot, and then it comes. And I was out of my comfort zone. It was the first time I went out of my country, and I learned so many things. And this shaped me as a person. So yes, it's fantastic. Yeah, all of that practically leads to a scientist that is ready to face all the challenges that the food sector has and will have in the future, which are a lot. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the trip. It was not to Greece, but it was a little bit all over Europe. So I will hand you over, Gladys, to you. Please. Sorry.
All right, thank you so much, Rika and Vasiliki, for your stories, because I think it feeds really well into the parts that I want to highlight as well. As mentioned, my name is Glindis, and I'm with the Young Professionals for Agricultural Development. We are a young professionals organization that is led by young professionals for young professionals specifically, and we serve people ages 18 to 35. So I'm really excited that you guys were sharing your testimonies, because then the part that the young people that we always connect with are really those folks that are between the ages of 24 to 35. You're in university those first couple of years, let's say, but what happens after that, oftentimes, right? That's usually the question. We hear Vasiliki's story, which is pretty much straightforward. I know it probably wasn't as straightforward as you made it seem, but there was still a trajectory. While nowadays, with changing industries, being able to change and do different jobs of the different skill sets that we have, career paths are not as straightforward. So then what happens to young people that perhaps have a technical training, but then maybe they don't have the soft skill sets that are necessary to be able to thrive? Or what happens if you have both, but then you don't have the network to connect to that? Or is it simply, the barriers and challenges of not having access to opportunity in general, whether that may be a postdoc or simply a job posting or an internship or paid positions, right? So at YPARD, what we are doing really, we have 3 main pillars that we work on. One is policy and advocacy, to be able to create the enabling environment for which young people can have a say in which what they want to see, not just for the food sector in general, but food systems, yeah? Then we have capacity building, so programs of soft skills, programs in general, of, well, okay, you have a project idea, you already are an innovator, but what happens next? Do you know how to write that concept note? Do you know how to pitch to an investor? Are you able to scale your innovation? Do you have the skills, those skills that you need to be able to get to that next step? I often hear there's a lot of food system leaders, and I don't love the word food systems leaders, if I'm honest, because this concept of leaders makes it seem as it's 1 in a million, and this is actually not the case. We have a lot of change makers, but it's a matter of creating the opportunities for them to be able to thrive. And then aside from this, then we have knowledge management, which is specifically about these opportunities that we're able to provide, as well as just general knowledge of what you need to thrive. And so for when we're answering, going back to the original, to this question of, well, what are the skills that are needed? What are the skills that are necessary? What I hear from here is exactly what I want to say and what our organization tries to do, and serve our membership as best as possible, the network. My aunt always used to say, Glindis, your network is your worth. I didn't agree with this when I was 22. I was like, oh, that sounds, I don't know, I don't agree with this. Now that I'm a bit older, I'm like, actually, there is a lot of truth to that. Your network is your worth. Who you know will actually allow you to find that next opportunity. And for example, plugging into a youth organization or network in general, which Rika also mentioned, well, I got plugged into the EIT Food Network. Well, joining a organization in general that allows you to make those connections that you need are imperative. Imperative to find a way to be able to skill up, reskill, or simply to get your foot in the door, which for a lot of young people, this is always a challenge. The second one, capacity building. which was mentioned also by Vasiliki here. Well, capacity building, it was important to be able to work with that company, and let's say Wageningen, the same thing. We always emphasize on this. Maybe you have the technical skills, as I mentioned, or maybe you don't, but are there programs that are going to be able to support you, let's say after you've graduated from your bachelor's or from your master's degree? In this, I say, well, we need high quality partnerships. This is super important. And being part of an organization or a network in general that is able to help you achieve that is imperative as a young person. In this, we also say, well, then we need to look at what kind of partnerships we also want to have. We often say, well, what's the role? Private sector loves to ask, well, what's the role of private sector? Well, this is a great way to plug in, right? Working with civil society. If you have access to young people that are interested, that maybe have the skills, let's try to make that connection. What are the skills that the food sector needs? Okay, well, we have the people that are motivated. Let's create those programs, non-formal education programs, in which young people are able to get those additional skills that may be missing, and even to look beyond the young people as well. This is something that we were talking about previously. Young people, yes, are important, but youth, we're not youth forever. We know that. We get older. It's inevitable. And it's a good thing too. It means we're living. But with a changing market, a changing sector, we need to be able to provide the opportunities and the space for people to continue to develop themselves. And so for that, we do need these high quality partnerships and to be able to do so. And then I guess the last thing I would like to add to this in general is that, of course, you have to be daring and seek the opportunities as a young person. This is all important. But the food sector has a big responsibility here if we're serious about food systems transformation. This is a role that policy and institutions have to play here, but private sector, young professionals are ready. Think about the 24 to 35 group. This is still youth. Keep those numbers in mind. And that's basically my main points that I wanted to make here, because I think that when we're talking about skills, young people are important, but think about the fact that they're not only leaders of today, but also of tomorrow. And we want to make sure that we have that infrastructure in place, those non-formal education programs in place, those strong partnerships in place, so that we can continue to move as well with the transformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Glynis. Well, I'll jump quite a lot on this private sector role in my chat as well. Before I jump into that, I just want to say, if as a young person, you know that you can afford to try different things and that your career path is not all set, that there are ways further down the line to kind of bridge, have different activities, whether it's pure research or management or other, then it just increases your capacity to innovate and do different things on that way. So my name is Pavel. I work at the EBRD. EBRD is an international financial institution where we finance projects in agri-sector and others with a bit of a purpose. See it as an impact investing fund or like an EIB version that lends to Central and Eastern Europe and EU neighborhood countries. Now, within this organization, I am in a team focusing on human capital development and skills. And because our main counterparts are private companies, for us, they are the key vehicle to upskilling populations, youth especially. And when we mean upskilling, maybe we have a bit of a slightly broader approach to the kind of population we're working with. It can, of course, be some very high-tech, high-end R&D, PhD or postdocs coming to companies, but it's also something about the system, the whole food system and the skills in there. For one idea in the R&D center, you need X number of people to implement this, who also have the skills. For new processes in regenerative farming, you need X thousands of farmers who will endorse them and take them. So within the scope of looking at skills for youth, there's also this wider angle I want to bring in. Now, why is the private sector important? I think two main points come to mind. One is delivering skills, and delivering skills further down the line, delivering skills for people who come in with different processes, bespoke skills, because every technology is different, every sector is different, but also long-term skills over the kind of life of someone's career. We've been working with some big players, and those are very interesting when they have HR policies that support this, that support long life learning, that support career planning, that support coaching. And this comes back to the discussion we had on networking, coaching, mentoring within a company, beyond, will help things down the line. So that's one point. The second point of the industry of business is, of course, the knowledge of what might be needed going forward. Of course, we have great ideas in the academic world, and I also come from this, but from an economics perspective, of what we could be doing, but there's an acid test of what will be actually delivered over the next 5-10 years, what is doable given the system that we have right now. And this is what the private sector players we work with have a better knowledge of, or at least they try to, or at least us as EBRD, when we work with those clients, we try to make them elicit. Skilled strategies are something we try to build. So there is a bit of a thinking of what's going to happen. Now, as much as I'm enthusiastic about the role of businesses in the private sector, this is not all there is. We want skills in the economy. We want skills across countries. We want skill across the population of young people in the sector. So how do we build that? How do we enhance that? First, when it comes to knowing what needs to be done in the future, we've been piloting measures where we focus on that collaboration of businesses to channel the information all the way to academia, to policymakers, of what could be used going forward. That's one angle. The second aspect is delivering skills of their own is difficult for companies. And if they do it, they're using their own money. So it's not always, they will not maybe immediately focus on skills that are replicable and go outside. And this is where, again, as Vaseki was saying, the collaboration with academia is key. So these are kind of like the key points. On policy, I know we're going to go back to this a bit later, but really what we want to focus on in our job at EBRD, and what we try to move the needle on, is empower those private sector companies, especially the ones who are more innovative, the ones that are large and provide career opportunities across, the ones that have big supply chains and kind of trickle down these skills and this innovation. And we want to continue enhancing collaboration as is already being done at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you to all our panellists. I'm going to open up the floor in a minute for questions, and also questions for the people who are watching remotely as well. But I just wanted to start by picking up on some things that you've all been talking about. We've been talking about sort of the non-formal skills and the formal skills, and there seems to be quite a split. Like that. You get your formal skills when you're at university, when you're in sort of education, and then the non-formal skills afterwards. Is there actually, in fact, a split? And what are your thoughts on that? What's more important, formal or non-formal skills building?
I would say both are equally important. It's those hard skills, they are already taught at universities, but nowadays you also can, you find a lot of skill building on the internet also, but then I would say the soft skills, or these alternative skills, they are equally important, because they create the right mindset also to make use of that knowledge that you acquire, more the technical knowledge, and think beyond of what you are just learning. So I think there's kind of a balance between the two.
I cannot agree with you more, Rike. Indeed, both of them are extremely important. Of course, the formal skills are what we call the basis. But then, if, for example, you're a super fantastic scientist that you're doing cutting-edge research, you need to find a way to communicate this research to other people so that they know what you're doing and why this is important. Otherwise, your research will just stay into the drawer. in the drawer. This is the case. There are plenty of things that you can do during your studies and afterwards. And if you ask me, the last time I got a training was last week. Believe me, I can prove it. It is like that. We are continuously learning things. We are getting trainings all the time because we have to reach to a certain degree to be able to follow everything that is happening and to be able to react to all the challenges that we have in front of us. So I believe that both are very important. It's good to have a base and then really build on it and take it to the other level. And practically this is what is going to make you distinguish between all your peers. And I consider this very important as well.
I actually don't think that there's a split. I actually think that the reason why there is such a strong need for these kind of skills, it's simply because the education systems are yet not serving that. Fortunately, I do think that the educational systems in general are not changing as fast as the world is changing, as fast as industry is changing. And in reality, what we need to think of and to push for is of a rethinking the education system itself so that it's actually able to serve our economy, that's able to serve our transformation in general. Now, what I do think that is always necessary to have is after you, of course, if you decide to complete an education through university in a formal setting, whatnot, there still should be capacity building programs that are able to provide, let's say, this additional knowledge to keep people up to date with what's happening. And I think that's an additional thing there.
I don't want to add too much to what has been said already. I really agree. Maybe from an employment perspective for young people, the hard skilled sometimes come first on the job market and they're a starter. Well, we see with our clients that soft skill development is sometimes slightly easier to achieve internally, but anything goes in the other direction. If the client is big and willing to really engage with academia, you can also build hard skill later in your career, later in life.
I'm going to be slightly provocative there because you've all mentioned hard skills and soft skills. Is that helpful? Does that give more sort of cadence? Does it give more importance to the technical skills rather than the other skills, the underpinning capabilities? I've been told by my colleagues in education I need to say underpinning capabilities rather than soft skills. Should we reframe how we think and how we discuss these skills, and would that be helpful?
I think it depends on what we think when we're talking about technical skills, because for me, a social scientist has technical skills. When I'm talking about soft skills, I'm talking about something such as being able to pitch, communication, speaking with partners. This is what I mean when I'm talking about soft skills. I'm not talking about certain areas of knowledge being harder than others in any shape or form. At least that's what I mean when I'm talking about technical skills, because, for example, doing ethnography is a skill that can be very important in being able to map, for example, players in the sector.
Just an additional comment. I think when we look at skills, it's a very broad approach. Mm-hmm. And here I really see the distinction between skills for pure innovation that really need a hard, solid background, but all are very significant for us, and I cannot stress this enough from our perspective, the diffusion of innovation. And the skills that are needed for the diffusion and implementation of innovation, they are way more heavy on the soft side, and that's why they really shouldn't be overlooked once you have a strong team and strong core of people who bring on the new ideas.
I would like to add, because I very much relate to what Glintis and Powell said before. Practically, we need the technical skills because based on that, we can use them as keywords when our employees are selecting their staff, right? Powell, you said it before. This is very important to have technical skills. But think about it, even if you want to go to an interview, you need to know how to present yourself, and you need to know how you show your motivation, right? So communication skill. Then practically all these skills, as you mentioned before, are needed to all disciplines. No matter if you're coming from exact sciences or social sciences, you need to have them. They are important and practically defines you. Therefore, maybe they should be taught in all universities, no matter their expertise and discipline.
Yeah, just the last short comment that I think if you combine those technical skills with the more soft skills or underpinning skills, as you said, they will bring then the lasting impacts. I mean that the technical skills also really create impacts. Because then you can make really use of the technical skills, and as she said, know how to communicate to different actors also.
Have we got any questions from the audience at all? Yes, there's one over here.
Adam Paradowski, Agroecotton Poland. Question to Rieke. I hope I pronounce your name well. I guess now with your experiences, you have a long queue of headcounters from the commercial companies who would like to give you a job. But my question is, what will be your choice now? You go for the PhD, you go for a very, very rich position in the very huge company, or you stay with EIT Food? Because another question is to Vasiliki, because what we see is kind of, I know the English words, degradation of the institutes of universities, that when you have young people, they make a master, maybe they make a PhD, and they are, by headhunters, the big AG companies, food companies, they are taken off. And then we are losing a little bit people which can be the future. So I think maybe there's also the remarks, more programs like this. So first, what will be your choice? You will be PhD professor soon, or just you make a new nice company car and a big career in a big company?
That sounds like a bit of a job offer there.
Yeah, that's kind of a hard question. I think it really depends on your personality, and your life circumstances. What are you looking for on a personal level? But as I already said before, it's also hard to have all these choices nowadays with the skills that you have and have all these opportunities. It doesn't, for me, from personal experience, it doesn't make my career path easier to. And I honestly, I can't give you a concrete answer to that. Maybe.
Well, I always believe that academia is a very attractive place to work, because you create so many things and you come closer with the youth, you shape the future scientist, and that is already very fascinating. I think I was enjoying a lot my teaching duties, as much as my research duties, I would say. So I find this always very fascinating, and I think that there always be quite high amount of people that will be in love with teaching and with really doing basic research. I think this will never actually leave the table. It is always very attractive. So it is indeed what someone feels comfortable with. Someone may feel more comfortable by taking everything that is possible from the university, name it a master degree or a PhD, and then I think that the switch in mind, if you reach there, comes when you finish your PhD, and then you say, oh, am I feeling comfortable in staying here, or do I want to really explore what is beyond university? And this is why networking and all the programs that connect universities with private sector are important, because I know lots of my ex-colleagues or people that we studied together, They stayed in the university, never left. They don't really understand what it means to work in a private company, and they are a little bit trapped in their micro world. Not necessarily stayed in the university for an academic career, but being close to such a system. So I think that what is important is not what to choose, but how they will, what they have, what means they have to choose their career path. And also that they have to know that the career path can change. So there is no dead end, but just change your direction.
I just wanted to ask you more clearly. Is the question necessarily how do we keep, let's say, people in academia, or I'm trying to
Yes, because I think that in many cases the young people which are at the beginning of the career path, what Vasiliki said already, they first of all they think that they need to make a choice immediately. They need to start earning money, buying houses, etc. Something like that. So I think this kind of programs, I have experience, I have also this choice, stay at the university to make a PhD or go to that time to commercial. I go to commercial. But the thing is that I think it's not enough understood by the young what are the options, just the scholarship programs, exchange programs, etc. in the food sector, especially in agriculture. Because in the other disciplines, I think is very well known. I talk only about Poland. I see the universities, Warsaw Agricultural University, Poznań University. It's less and less students and less people which would like to stay because of such a kind of
for
things.
PhDs, you mean?
For PhD, and
Are
they later
paid?
on stay at the university.
Are the PhDs paid?
Don't ask how much.
Exactly.
It's
So that's your answer there.
No, but the thing is that my question is that as an idea to spend much more time, effort, but also money for kind of this exchange programs, I think this will be good worth, because it will come back with the ideas. Even as Vasiliki said, these people, ladies and gentlemen, young gentlemen and young ladies, go to commercial, but they treat it like an investment. But I don't see this that is such a popular. It's for the other sectors, but maybe not for the agri-food.
Okay, that's interesting. So I was one of those people that was offered a PhD, and I decided to go work instead. And the reason is, one of the things that we advocate for when we're talking about youth is decent livelihoods. Most of us know, and if you don't know, the conditions in which most people have to do PhDs. They're overworked, they're underpaid, they're burnt out. So the question is not, how do we allow for people to stay? The question is not why people don't want to stay. We know why young people don't want to stay and do a PhD. It is incredibly competitive, and once you actually finish, you don't know if you're going to have a postdoc. You don't know if you're able to do those things. It's very dependent on your supervisor if they want to connect you to other folks to be able to get to the next step. There's a lot of challenges there. So, and I would say that's even another whole conversation if we're talking about that, right? The reality is, though, it's a shame that that's the case, because there's so much collaboration that needs to happen between academia and private sector, and it's a shame. So I just wanted to make that comment, because it's not that they're going for the shiny car and the company benefits. That's not the point. The point is the conditions in which they need to work under.
So thanks, Adam. I won't reply to your comment, but kind of it brought up something in my thinking on the skills logic. And it almost ventures the policy side to stop me if it's not time yet to discuss about it. But there is a bit something of an agglomeration effect of skills in the sector, whereby there are more big companies and bigger European capitals that pay more. And what happens then to that regional producer in Romania, where they struggle to find the right adequate skills. Now, there's way to kind of providing incentives for people working there. There are ways of having a very proactive HR policy, but this gap can be actually quite strong. And Vasiliki, your example is great. You went from Greece to the Netherlands, and a lot of people I know would have a similar logic into aggregating into certain places. So there's a bit of a general question of what do we do in what I wouldn't call skill deserts, but places where skills are harder to come by. Regions in Central and Eastern Europe where there is lots of young people as well. Thank you.
We've got a couple of questions at the back there, so can we speak into the microphone for those?
Thanks a lot. So I want to point out another topic that we are always talking about so far. This part of the table, we are like, okay, we need to have soft skills, we need to have hard skills, we need to be a very good scientist and see also the Europe, all the other parts, everything. Okay, great, amazing. But when we turn the table, the other part, how much HR is aware of it? When this young professional trying to thrive in the food sector, trying to find a position to improve their skills, to gain more information. Lately, are we questioning how much HR is aware, or the hiring managers? For example, your master degree, it's amazing. When I see you, I'm seeing maybe the future policymaker. But when an HR sees you, most probably they're seeing someone that not focused on one area, not specialized in anything, and just a junior position. Yeah, 2 seconds on the CV, that's all. She's been to Portugal, I don't know, somewhere else, somewhere in Spain. To me, those kind of like the combined joint master degrees are amazing opportunities for creating the future food managers, future people that can be very impactful for our future food sector. But what do you think about how they gonna reach out where they need to end up? So that was my question.
Who wants to go first?
Yes, this is really a very interesting question, and you have a good point there. Then my view, my advice, if you want, is that you cannot do 5 master programs. It's impossible. And maybe it is a little bit of waste of time, because you gain what you need from a master program, and the master program will practically stays with you, will define your set of skills that you will gain there. But then you need to act, you need to gain experience. So I would suggest, for example, the traineeship programs. There are so many in the Commission, in companies, I'm pretty sure. Maybe in the university, there are special programs that you can use, or you can opt for short training opportunities and internships. At REA, we have just launched the Blue Book traineeship, where in the Commission, not only at REA, but I know because we started the recruitment procedure, and this is something, for example, that someone can get. It is under payment, and you can find other sets of programs like that to start building and practically find what you want. Don't forget, you build your profile not only by your degree, your master, your PhD, but also from your work experience, even if you start like this, because there are skills that, although you didn't follow a training, you learn them. Last year we had the opportunity to welcome at REA young observers. So they were master students that they came to see with us, to walk with us through the evaluation process of the proposal. So the young observer that was with me did also a communication campaign. So I saw she was so motivated, and she took even an interview from our head of department. All these, they were just opportunities on the spot. So I will quote what you said before. Take the opportunities that will come on your hands and take the best out of it from whichever experience you're having and you will have. Just give your best and take the best out of it.
I'll just take this over here, but as I'm doing that, I mean, I think it's very interesting because it goes back to the formal, non-formal skills building that we were talking about. I've done quite a bit of work with PhD students on careers. I used to, before I was a consultant, I used to work quite regularly with PhD students. And actually, one of the things that I used to say to them is, you'll do your PhD, that's going to be one line on your CV. And you'll do your PhD, it'll be one line on your CV, and you will be competing for a job with a lot of other PhDs with one line on their CV. What will set you apart from everybody else? And that's generally going to be the other skills that you build, that picture you build of yourself and your capabilities through all of that skills building. And I think that's really important. And that's how, you know, when you're applying for jobs, when you're working with sort of HR managers, that's something that I think sort of candidates can learn, is that picture they can build of themselves through the experience and the skills. But that in itself requires training, because it's hard to write a good CV or a good cover letter and explain your skills, explain yourself in terms of skills. So again, that is something that we need to look at, but I'll just pass this to Glendis.
Well, you made me think, I don't have a direct answer for your question, but you made me think of something from the other part, right? Because we're talking about young professionals. A lot of HRs are young professionals too. And I sometimes do wonder, are they seeing the big picture when someone is applying for the job? Do they see how these skills can be also implemented, let's say, for a position? So if anyone works in the private sector, I'm wondering if you guys have these conversations with HR as well. Are they also staying updated with the trends of things that are happening and how educational systems are made up and how the skills can also be applied there? Because I think maybe that's where you're coming from as well. Not what you can do to stand out, but rather what's the other side thinking when they're looking at your qualifications? Are they aware of how your qualifications can be a good fit for the company?
Just to add to this, the other question is, are there enough positions in companies for work-based learning, for internship, for traineeships? And now, depending on countries, you have very different landscapes, even depending on subsectors you might want to work in. And that's something that really should be kind of pushed further. You cannot expect to smaller, especially smaller companies, to fully take the hit if they don't see it as an investment. So there's one way is to convincing them it's a good investment. Another is providing some form of incentives for this to happen. But I think it's a work in progress there.
Sorry, I wanted to just comment much earlier. So I actually, my name is Lena Krautscheid. I'm from Germany, and I have the same background as you. I did a master in sustainable food system at the Swedish University in Agricultural Sciences, and I finished 2020, and I was standing in front of the same question: what should I do? Because I felt I don't fit in any pattern. So I was lucky. I still had connections with my previous master thesis supervisor. So I took the head of the economic part. So I was working as a research assistant at the Department of Economics. And that opened the door for applying for a job in Germany at the Federal Office for Agriculture and Food as a policy officer. So I was working there. And while I was working there, I got exposed to the European Research Network. And I found out that I'm a rounder. I can do a lot. I can work in the livestock sector. I can work with animal health. I can work with food technology, with everything. So I found that my background, I'm not a specialist in anything, but I can work with everything, and I'm very much wanted. And I think this master in sustainable food system is very new for a lot of countries. And they want people in that kind of master. So I think it's a strength. And now I'm doing a PhD because I felt that I want to expand my knowledge. I'm now at the Faculty of Engineering, which is far off my background. But I do a PhD in transformative innovation, which I found the gap there. So I think you just have to be creative. You have to take the opportunities, and it will lead you somewhere. And you can always change. You can go to public sector. You do this 2 years and you decide you want to come back to academia, and it's no problem. So that's just my message I want to give to you, that there's a lot of options, a lot of different paths, and I think our masters are a real strength. So I think it's good that we are around us and we are needed.
Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, really, thank you for your insights also on that. I was exactly in the same position. I didn't know where I was going, and I really had these doubts. Okay, what am I now after having studied this? I'm not an expert in anything, and I can't compete with a bioengineer or food technologist that works in a lab and has a lot of lab experience. But also, once I entered into the job market, I started working for an NGO that really works on European research and innovation projects. I realized, okay, I know a lot of many sectors that my colleagues don't. So, as you said, you're kind of an all-rounder, and you find your way once you start working. You find the way, where you want to go, where your interests are. But really, you kind of have other skills that others don't have that really are beneficial in the everyday job also.
Can I add something? Just a small addition that would actually is in line with what you were saying. We were talking at the office with colleagues. We are sometimes involved in recruitment processes, and what we said that usually when you have lots of applications, what is happening is that you take out all the people that they have the technical skills you need for this job. There are already a lot, so you are competing people that they have the same skills with you more or less, and then in the so you pass the first selection process, and then in the interview, what is there to see is how motivated you are to do this. Do you really want to do this? And this is what will qualify you and put you in a higher order in comparison with the others. I think this is what is important. So you talked about motivation, take the opportunity. I think this is very important stuff that you have to, so you have to be alerted all the time of what is going on around you and what you really want to, how and where you feel comfortable and how you see yourself later on. Just that.
Question just there.
Thank you. Very quickly, I'm Professor Vladislav Popov from Agriculture University of Plovdiv. I'm a vice rector of this university. Very much knowing what our students want to do. But the thing is that in this whole chain of skills development, we can't and we don't very often listen the end side of this chain, which is the industry and business. So we have two representatives here that probably know better than us what business want in the agri-food sector. Because if you don't have a labor market for our students, then forget it. I mean, everything is for nothing. They'll go and be a salesperson or something like that. So the thing is that we have to listen to the labor market. And then my second question is, in relation to that, what kind of workers they want? Complex workers? I mean, complexly educated and trained and skillful with all the soft skills. Do they also pay attention to the greening? Because we are all going into this direction. So I'm keen to listen whether the green business and industry is also mindful of what kind of experts and specialists they need, or they need just clearly, purely technical experts and more into innovations and development of innovations and implementation of innovations. That's really interesting, and at least I'm not aware of such study to provide us universities of what the business wants. Thank you.
So based on experience, it very much depends on what kind of company it is. If it is a startup and you need a biotechnologist to do 3D printing, you're not necessarily going to care if they're a food systems thinker at that moment because they're trying to scale up, right? Of course, if you're in a bigger company and they're trying to create new roles and they're into more ESG, they're trying to go into this transition, then having a food systems thinker there is way more necessary, absolutely. This is why I say that the important thing is to have more collaboration between academia and the private sector in this case, so that we're ensuring that people are being prepared to go into companies, to also go into civil society and the public sector as well.
I'll definitely second that. Within companies, they also need to be a bit more proactive sometimes into understanding what's coming. The distinction that you made, I make a similar one, which is basically innovation leaders versus more people who follow the frontier of innovation. And this would distinguish those type of skill that would be needed there. Now, there's one thing we didn't mention that sometimes works quite well in our countries is sectoral level collaboration, which is kind of a midway between a company, sometimes too small actually to even have a heavy labor intensive skills assessment process. So there are ways to cooperate sectorally, and some countries have very strong sectoral bodies that can be actually the channel between the kind of individual ones and the academia, and it's sometimes a bit easier to talk to. Thanks.
So just could I add on to that then? This is a policy conference, so what role do policymakers play within that and enabling that? We've talked about industry. We've talked about HR. We've talked about the emphasis being on the young people coming through the system. But what role do policymakers play?
Okay, I'll start the first point, and there's a cost issue. Let's not ignore it. There's a cost of having interns. There's a cost of planning for your workforce to have people who work for. There's a cost of having bigger HR teams and so on. So on the policy side, it's about maybe incentives that will kind of mitigate those costs. Of course, the alternative is explaining and making a claim that those costs are investments, which sometimes is the case, but let's be clear, sometimes they are not. One other point I just wanted to mention is on the spending on those costs. We work with clients that increasingly the big groups have strong ESG policies or CSR policies, and they are eager to spend some form of their funds into the social angle, into the skills angle, into basically the human development of the company and beyond. This is also a lever that we could use, saying that skills are good for the company's productivity, but skills can also tap into a company's more CSR angles.
I would just like to add to that it's not skills that would be just good for companies, but skills also good for society. Because in general, what we want are businesses that want to transform society too. It's not simply just for the sake of innovation, right? So I just wanted to add that there. I don't have anything else more to add to that because I do agree with you in this regard, actually.
Yes. Indeed, I believe that the role of the policy and policymakers there is very important. If you think about it, they need to, as I said, to hear what is needed from all sides and act. So the key element in this hearing process is to connect and communicate. So practically the policymakers should connect and should know all the main actors of this chain, and then they have to connect to find the way to communicate and connect in order to create the grounds for all this practically collaboration and for all this it's a ship, it's a train, it's a chain that brings everybody together, and it is a long one, and therefore their role is important, and we have to be able to communicate to them. And they need to hear from us more, let's say, and from all actors, I'm saying, in order to find out what is needed for this to work, because we need to accept that some challenging periods are coming, and maybe we have a lot of surprises even in the food sector. I mean, who could foresee the COVID crisis and everything that has brought to the food sector. So we need to be ready, we need to communicate and to be able and very active in building fast and effective task forces. I think that is something that we should think.
I believe it's, sorry, do you want to go? Okay. If we're talking about concrete policy recommendations, from my point of view, it's just about rethinking how we are doing education at university level also, and then adding those type of options that students can go to entrepreneurial classes and kind of mix those type of, and focusing really more on the development of social and emotional skills. So that would be my recommendation.
One more point and I'll put it brief. Of course, some people will travel all across Europe to find the right job, and companies are global. But private-public collaboration is also something very local. It's also about local ecosystems. And as we think about also this approach to food with local supply chains and so on and so forth, this is part of the story. Discussing with the counterpart in that second-tier city what is going to happen, what is coming up, and not just a bit of an abstract EU level, those are all the skills we need, those are all the provision, because that's far off what the solution we can find.
And I just wanted to quickly add to that. Local governments also already do tend to have data with civil society of what's actually already needed in those spaces. So creating programs or local incentives, for example, of companies to be able to support this enabling environment is something concrete that can be done. I agree with you. Not everything has to happen at an EU level because realities have to be contextualized.
Okay, we are now at the end of our session. We all need to move back into the main plenary room because there's a special address. So I'd just like to finish by saying thank you to Rika, Vasiliki, Glindis and Pavel for their amazing session. I hope you've all enjoyed it. They're all going to be around for the rest of the day, so feel free to network with them during lunch and afternoon break and connect with them on LinkedIn. I'm sure you're all on LinkedIn. So thank you very much. I hope you'll join me in sort of saying thank you to them. Thank you.